This podcast episode is sponsored by ChiefAIOfficer.com, offering training and certification through the International Association of Chief AI Officers. Interested in a new career or leveling up your value in the marketplace? ChiefAIOfficer.com can help. The following is an interview with Corbett Drummey, Vice President of Brand Collaboration at Lightricks. You may know Lightricks for its popular Facetune app, where Corbett is pioneering innovative tools like their LTX Studio, which makes AI-generated videos and storytelling accessible and efficient for everyone, regardless of technical or creative background. This episode is an interesting exploration into AI's ability to provide cutting-edge creative skills to any of us, even if you don't consider yourself a creative. Welcome to Using AI at Work. I'm your host, Chris Daigle. Each week, we'll be learning how today's business owners, entrepreneurs, and ambitious professionals are getting more done with smart use of tomorrow's tech. Let's get started. Okay, I'd like to welcome Corbett Drummey to the podcast today. Corbett is with Lightricks, and we've just had the opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better before we turn this on live. And I'm pretty fascinated with the application of generative AI that he's primarily focused on, which is more of the creative side. That's not an area, I'm just not wired to be the creative guy. So it's always interesting to sit down with individuals who are spending a lot more time on that use of generative AI, because it's something that all of us can benefit from, and we don't typically tend to cover a lot on the podcast. So Corbett, welcome, and let everybody know a little bit about, first off, where you are, why you're there, and what you're doing with Lightricks.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be on the show, Chris. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'll start with background on me and the company where I'm at, and we can dive into wherever you want to focus on. So I'm Corbett Drummey. I'm the VP of Brand Collaboration at Lightricks. Lightricks is a technology company where I think most people know of us through our product Facetune. It's our most popular one, but we make a suite of content creation apps such as PhotoLeap and VideoLeap for photo and video editing. My background personally is I was the co-founder and previous CEO of Popular Pays, the creator and influencer marketing platform. And 2 years ago, we were acquired by Lightricks. So within the last 6-12 months, I've actually moved to focus on a brand new product, which is one of the things we'll talk about today as well, called Lightrix Studio. So Lightrix Studio is an AI video platform, and it's our first product that's built from the ground up with AI. And we've integrated AI in pretty much all of our products underneath the Lightrix umbrella. So today, we can talk about our journey, like how we first started using AI in our products, how we use it day to day, and then kind of the future of these completely native AI products such as LTX Studio, what you can do with them, how they're kind of changing workflows, all the above. And finally, I'm pretty passionate about it in my personal life. So I'm happy to talk about just tips and tricks from, my own day-to-day work too.
Awesome. So I know that we had a different time originally for this podcast interview, but we had to change it because you are speaking, right? In London? Or where are you?
Yeah. I'm in London now. Kind of weird being in London on election day, but I voted before I left. So
nice.
Get out there and vote. I'm sure it's too late when people hear this. So yeah, I'm here because tomorrow we're doing 2 talks, mostly about Lightrix Studio. It's been a very exciting time because we released this product, LTX Studio, in March in beta, but then in August, it's been open to the public. And you can think about it like a tool for rapidly prototyping video, but uniquely, it's not just AI video as the outputs. It's a whole project. It's the video, multiple videos stitched together, narration, dialogue, sound effects, and background sounds. So you really can go from 0 to 1, and a non-technical user can produce a full movie output in a few minutes.
What's the learning curve for somebody like me? As I expressed, I'm a non-creative. What's the learning curve for me to be able to get quality output from LTX Studios?
What's cool is I think that, well, first off, I think Lightricks does a really great job in general with the UX and UI of that stuff, of helping people go from concept to content quickly. But this one in particular, you can imagine it. One of the ways you can initiate a project, you could put in a script, you could start from scratch, but you can also just kind of put in a prompt like you would ChatGPT. And from that single prompt, you can, it'll suggest the characters and scenes, and you can click, confirm, and it will create a whole project for you from scratch out of that single prompt. So really in a minute, you could go from just a blurb to a full movie project. And then the fun part is spending, the next 30 to 60 minutes tweaking all the details. But yeah, even a non-technical user with a few clicks can get an idea they've always had in their head out on paper and finally see it, come to life.
What is the cost associated with being able to access that capability within the tools?
So some of the big news we released recently is that when it came out of beta in August, we made a version of it free for everyone. You get a limited amount of compute time, so
Sure.
about an hour. So imagine it goes a long way though. Like anyone can sign up today just at LTX Studio, and there's that free tier. And you imagine like if I'm creating a project, um, it might start with the keyframes, and it will pull up a few keyframes, a few scenes, and I can generate the videos based on those keyframes. And each video might be, like 6 seconds long or something like that. So if you think about it, that buys a lot of compute time. But if I export, a 5-minute project, I could do a couple iterations of that and still have plenty of time. So really a new user can jump in, create a first project. But if you're scaling multiple ones, like a marketer using this to prototype commercials or things, you'll want one of the business tiers. And there's tiers ranging from, creator or business tiers that,
Wow.
range from, a few dollars a month to over $100 a month. And it's something we've been rolling out and iterating on based on the community feedback. But there's even like a custom tier for large enterprises with like a huge set of features that, professionals might need.
Oh, this is great. I'm actually, I hadn't checked the pricing before we got on. This is very accessible for
Mhm.
anybody looking to do this. And the examples that are on the homepage, that is the type of output that I can expect to get from LTX Studio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really cool.
Wow.
So I think of all the things that I think are surprising about it is number one, most people are used to seeing AI video outputs as just a single video. And the
Yeah.
unique thing here is you're outputting a full project. So it's um, video, multiple videos stitched together. You can have, 10 scenes if you want. And then there's also the sound design. The narration is really cool. We added dialogue recently. So you can actually have characters talking to each other with lip syncing now. You can upload a video of like a face in the emotion and even have that emotion drive the character's face motion on screen. So there's really these like powerful storytelling features that you can end up tweaking for, a couple hours if you want to get the perfect shot. But I think the unique part is that most other video generation software is very slow. And here, if you change something, like if I have a character who's, a lawyer in a courtroom with a tan suit, I can type in red suit, or I can use a tool and delete something in the background. And it updates, within 5 seconds, the keyframe. And then a video, you can generate a preview in another 15 seconds. And even when you're exporting the full project with all the videos together, it just takes a couple minutes for the whole project, not just a single video. So I think what marketers have really seen, people in like the entertainment world, marketing world, they've seen that this is a really powerful tool for prototyping and getting your idea, that the vision you have in your head, getting it out on paper.
This is crazy, man, because, okay, let's talk about before this tool was available. If I wanted to do this, if I wanted to create the equivalent output of, let's say I spent an hour in LTX, I built something, I tweaked it. The output that I would get from that hour's effort, what would it have required pre-generative AI, pre-AI tool?
The most interesting answer is probably that for most people, they couldn't have done it. And
Yeah.
so, like, I'm a perfect example where I'm not technical. I'm both in terms of like engineering or design. And so, I can talk about the teams I've been on where we had people like that with like, skills around, whether it's making static or motion, et cetera. But someone like me, I wouldn't have the skill set to produce a video like this. And
Just
so
wouldn't be
whether I
an
had
option.
exactly, and
Oh,
I've had stories I've always thought of like the first thing I did when I got this is I took a short story that was only 3 pages that I really loved, and I had never seen anyone make it into a film, probably because it's too short. And I
sure.
tried making it into one, and it took me. I was gonna play around with it for like 10 minutes, and I ended up spending 3 hours playing around with it. And I would say it's hard to get. One thing I have a lot of respect for is when you're trying to get everything to line up perfectly, like dialogue with the transition into a scene, you can really go nuts, like getting into details. And so I did spend, several hours trying to perfect it, but I outputted something that it was alongside the vision I had of it, and it's something I could never have even gotten close to. I wouldn't even know where to start before I had LTX Studio.
So there was a technical restriction for sure. And let's say you had the budget and you approached a team to do this and they weren't enabled with these AI powered tools. What would you expect the budget to look like for me as an advertiser to create something equivalent?
Well, I'll give you an example. I'd say like the closest parallel I've seen is that a decade ago, before Popular Pays, before Lightricks, I worked at an ad agency, and we would create ideas for commercials for our clients. And we'd usually write a script, like the copywriter would make a script. We'd have an art director make one or a couple photos. And, they'd take like an hour or two comping up designs for just, simple art direction of the story. But it's the most like low fidelity way to
Yeah.
communicate an idea. It's just a script and like a photo or two,
Yeah.
and maybe a photo per scene, maybe. And so our storyboards would take the same amount of time, like hours to comp up because of the photoshopping of things, writing the script. And, now you can drop that same script into, first of all, you can use tools to help you write the script. But you can drop that script in and get actual video previews of your motion and scene like vision in like minutes. And so really it takes something, you would normally have to take a couple hour, like an hour or two just to get a static. And now you can get like a full rough cut. And maybe the other, like to punch it up a little bit.
Wow.
One time, when we'd have to make like a more highly produced commercial, like maybe something we're doing for the Super Bowl or like an anthem spot, we would purchase stock footage and stitch
Yeah.
it together. And so you're spending, a couple like thousands of dollars on stock footage, just for really basic stuff. And then there's rigidity there where you can't really tweak it. You're getting like a scene and a vibe, but here you can get the exact motion of like a spaceship coming down into the scene or someone walking along the street. You can add and remove objects. So imagine it's like this really interactive storyboarding. And so I've talked with people that have spent, $10,000+ on a single
Sure.
storyboard that's rigid. And here, you can get an unlimited amount of compute for less than that per year. So it's like a
Wow.
crazy, 100x improvement over lots of people's normal workflows, whether you're in like the entertainment industry, the advertising industry, marketing industry. And so it's one of the examples where it makes everyone good enough so they can do it. But people who are good, you can almost realize your vision. I would say that it's not like, it's not in a spot where you'd export it directly into a commercial. It's really a tool right now for prototyping. I have seen the curve of how much these video models are improving,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
work on a lot of that technology in-house ourselves. And I really think like we should get used to the fact that in a year or so, it will be there. Like
Yeah.
we've already had some brands that have used this externally in ads, but I'd say
Wild.
80% of people, 90% of people are using this for prototyping, but
Uh-huh.
more and more will use it for actual external content.
So I'm very interested in testing because I've got a couple of ideas like your short story that I've always wanted to see in video. Um, and I'm not trying to impress the world at large with perfection of our video. Would I be able to ship output if I wasn't okay? Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then
Yeah.
I
So,
can't wait to get started.
so a few cool things. I mean, I'll do like a little bit of a walkthrough of it because there's so much we've
Yeah.
packed into it. And personally, I've never worked on a product that had more product velocity than this, in the sense that the product and engineering teams working on LTX Studio are releasing things constantly. Every few weeks, we're adding, major features, or just like really like nice tweaks that make your workflows better. But as an example, around after the launch of this in beta, we added some really cool sharing options. Some of them are, you can share a project and collaborate on it. So like you and I can collaborate on it as if it were a Google Doc. We can both be tweaking the scenes together. You can share it with permissions there. You can export it as a video file, like a complete video file with all the things packed together. One pro tip I would give people is do the preview first, which is like an animatic. So you can see static plus the sound, like narration, sound effects, et cetera. And then when the timing of the scenes line up, then you export the final movie. But it's kind of like cheaper computationally, quote unquote,
Yeah.
to just create the animatic first so you can get the timing of your scenes right, then export that final project. And then underneath that, you can even export like working files. So I can export something. So you could start the project here, and let's say you use some other editing software like Adobe or something, you can import the working files and continue editing it in that. So it's very like friendly
Interesting.
with your workflows. And then finally, one of the coolest things is you can export it as a pitch deck. So I can export it builds a pitch deck for you in the sense of,
Wow.
the title, the characters, the scenes, the color palette and design. It even has the kind of synopsis underneath. And you can export this PDF to share if you're, pitching an idea to someone.
So I know that your intended user is somebody in the creative field. Have you had anecdotal experience with individuals who you mentioned pitch deck, and the first thing I think about was, well, if I'm presenting a business concept and I was able to, because what I'm always looking for is these tools allow all of us to stand out in some way by leveraging whether it's the novelty of the fact that, wow, I can make whatever the image is move, or the video avatars, or whatever I'm doing. Um, so I'm always thinking about how can I leverage these tools in a non-technical business use case, even if it wasn't intended for that. But in my non-technical business use case, I'm going to stand out. I'm going to look like somebody who is capable with leveraging this new paradigm of technology. Are you seeing any users doing that stuff, like those uses yet?
Absolutely. There's a couple interesting examples there. One of them would be uh, some people use this to as like a playground for development. So, imagine instead of making a storyboard of a full project, maybe I'm just trying to get an image of a specific scene that I had in mind, maybe for a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
And for example, one interesting workflow I saw is I had a visual I needed for a presentation. I use LTX Studio to start from scratch, and I just make a single uh, video image, like video scene, and I don't need a full project. And I might be typing something like, a floating orb in Times Square. Like I don't know what the visual is, but you need a visual, and
Yeah.
so I might just get an MP4 video and just convert that to an animated GIF, and so now you have a cool like auto playing animated GIF for a presentation. So there's all these interesting ways where we've seen like I'd say a lot of people are making full storyboards out of this, but many people are using it as a creative playground for trying many iterations of a single visual scene. And one thing
Interesting.
that's wild, actually, we didn't even get to this, but I think my very favorite feature of it is what's called style transfer. And you can take a single image and change a whole project into a certain style. So let's say that your company has a certain style, whether it's a color palette or aesthetic, even something that's really hard to describe, like a pattern, like Starry Night, Van Gogh style. Like
Sure.
you can take any type of visual design language, and with a single photo, it interprets it almost as you hired this amazingly professional artist to interpret all of your scenes. It is the most impressive use of AI to like interpret the style to your existing projects. But you can get it kind of close and then kind of drag and drop your stylistic reference there and get the exact thing you're looking for. So yeah, I've seen people use it as a playground to test many different visuals, and maybe they need it for, like I said, a presentation, something like that. It doesn't have to be a story you're pitching. It could be just a simple slide visual. That's probably one more example that's like everyone makes presentations, so like
Sure.
that's a really common example you might use it for.
So most people on here have probably experimented with the image generation, generative AI supporting image generation. Video generation for me was something that I was like, it's not there yet, right? But doesn't sound like it sounds like I need to probably start to recalibrate my position on that, because this sounds almost like ease of use of an image generation tool.
Mhm.
However, and all the functionality with being able to change the styles and things like that very simply. However, it's now resulting in motion video. So this is very
Yeah.
cool.
I would say this, like, I agree with your sentiment there. I think that I've seen some image generations that are photorealistic that can fool even an expert.
Sure.
For video, I've used everything out there. I mean, I really have used every model possible, and we've integrated the best technology we can, as well as building our own for LTX Studio. I would say even some that aren't there yet, like some aren't released, like Sora is not released yet from OpenAI. Um, I think we can say safely that within a year and a half or so, there will be videos that can kind of fool a person who's paying attention. Right now, it's best for prototyping, but you can still tell it's AI.
Yeah.
But really, the power has been okay. You're not going to make a full feature Hollywood film with AI today, but you can make a trailer in 3 minutes that can communicate your idea. And so I think it's like how people are
Hey.
using it today is really interesting. But we all should get used to the concept that this is coming, and I expect that, there'll be a whole generation of creators now in the next few years using these tools who make the next, like Rick and Morty or type of show where it doesn't need to be perfect and it can still be good. And
Right.
then later you can make something that is, um, it is quite compelling visually and really transports you into that, cinematic world. But yeah, it's really demo, democratizing who can be a creator. Is changing workflows. It's hard for creators though because they have to constantly learn these new tools, and it can be really exhausting. As we're constantly building new tools too. But it is exciting. And so personally, even though it's tough with the tides always changing in terms of what's possible, what you have to know, better that than the static field that is never changing. And so I think embracing that change is good. But yeah, for now, if I were trying to get aware of what's possible, I would think if you've had an idea for a trailer in your head, now who's non-technical can make that in 5 minutes, and then maybe in a year you'll be able to make something that's pretty compelling, that other people would want to watch, in terms of like the artistic rendering of that video and how like high fidelity it is after that.
So just to get geeky and kind of switching subjects, and I don't know if you can even share the information, but what is the engine behind the image generation? Is it Flux? Is it something else?
Good point on Flux. That's something we've been playing with everything, I would say.
Yeah,
The I'll give you some background. And yeah, it's helpful to talk about like where you can use it today. For folks that are interested, we can talk a bit about what's under the hood. But we tend to use like we survey and try to use the best that's out there, and we also build some things ourselves. So, for example, when we were first using it, we were using some parts of Stable Video for testing and learning for just quickly generating things. We've also built some of our own technology under the hood. The first things that we
sure.
released, for example, were places where we saw the market wasn't solving for. So even back in March, this is pretty unique. You could create a new character like at Ben, and in a scene you create, you could say at Ben is grabbing a cup of coffee, and it would keep the character consistency, which was previously something that was really hard to do between
Right.
videos. And so we built things ourselves. And I would say, without getting into too much more, just because hopefully there's some things we're announcing soon, we've both been doing kind of pushing forward technology that's already there, like building on top of Stable Video, as well
Yeah,
as like really building things entirely new ourselves. And so if I'm being cagey there, it's just because we're hoping to talk more about that soon. But
totally
I would
understand.
say we're using the best that's out there, and our view is we can both be agnostic in the sense that even if we weren't building our own tech on it, we'd want to plug in the best of what's out there so that people can use us as like a platform, like a foundational platform to make what they want. And I would encourage other people, like other folks that are thinking of using this in their own business. There's so much cool work being done out there with the foundational models, both on the LLM side and all the video side, that um, entrepreneurs and companies these days can kind of build on top of them in a way where it's like this, nuclear power of free energy, and you just have to build the piping and plumbing. And so even if you're just building interfaces, there's a lot of great work to be done, and a lot of the challenges in the interface itself. But we think the fundamental problems and the foundational problems are also very interesting.
If you're enjoying this episode and want to learn more about how to start using AI at work, we've made it easy for you. For just $1, you can have full access to the Chief AI Officer community, which will give you additional training, custom software, daily training calls on AI tools, using AI automations, getting more from your ChatGPT sessions, and the business of being an AI consultant. Simply go to chiefaiofficer.com/insiders to accelerate your AI journey. Now, back to the episode. How much has the technology, not just yours, but the technology of AI generated video output changed just since March when you launched this as beta?
It changes a lot. You mentioned Flux, which is an example where, there's certain things where even over a course of a few months might be hard. And sometimes we build things for that. Sometimes we leverage things off the shelf. But those two examples here are really pertinent. Like the one I mentioned, the character consistency, that's something
Yeah.
that we spotted as a hole in the market. And so we built that
Yeah, it was.
ourselves. But another good example, and many people who've played around with Flux have seen this, text is often very, very hard.
Yes.
And Flux can help with consistency and things like text. And so if you're a marketer right now, you can make an ad of, I want a scene of a car driving down Hollywood Boulevard, and you could do everything except you might struggle to put like a text on a billboard in that
Yeah.
scene. Now you can, So I think that it's moving so fast that the one thing I kind of encourage people to do is if you had tested certain things even like 3-4 months ago,
Yeah.
try them again. And so
Yeah.
that goes with everything like consumer tools such as ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone to pay for the pro version so you can try the newest models. And same thing with this. I wouldn't turn a blind eye on it. Don't in this field, don't write anything off because it kind of turns over completely every 6 months, like what's possible.
So I have a advertising background, primarily direct response digital. I've done a lot of offline and direct mail and things like that as well. And one of the things that I learned early on that might seem counterintuitive to somebody who's not in marketing is that the pretty creative doesn't always win.
Yes, true.
And one of the things that we've been testing a lot with is, so for us, our position on using synthetic output in our marketing is that it either needs to be indiscernible
Mhm.
from human creation, or we need to lean into the AI part and not try to fool somebody like the emperor wears no clothes kind of thing. Um, so I would be very interested in using this output in our creative, not because it was perfect, because it was imperfect at sometimes. Because if it's perfect to me, it almost seems like noise. I'm scrolling. Oh, another pretty person, another fast car, whatever. But if I see something that's like, wait a minute, that person has 3 legs, like I,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop, right? And it's obvious that I'm not trying to fool anybody that this is
Yeah.
human. But it sounds like the output that I'm able to get with LTX is it's not 3 legs, but it's not quite human yet. It's somewhere in the middle.
First off, you're so right about I think it's the uncanny valley of, I think most marketers fall in the trap of being stuck there where you really do either want to push for, like something that is like maybe you used AI tools, but it's filmed for real. So you cross that uncanny valley. There's some models maybe in a year, that will themselves create output that passes the uncanny valley. If it involves humans, it's even harder, because
Yeah.
we're so good
Yeah.
at perceiving that. But exactly like you said, the people that I've seen have the most success in exporting and using AI assets intentionally don't even try to cross that chasm. They stick with things that they embrace the glitches. One example would be like I know the folks who did this, but we weren't responsible for this. But I'll point to it as a great example.
Sure.
There's like a semi-famous like Coca-Cola ad for this reason where they're in a museum and it's people shot for real, but then the painting comes to life as AI and it's reaching for a Coca-Cola, but it's very glitchy. It's kind of like Art Deco, or it goes to different art styles and it's glitchy but on purpose. And so it's kind of highlighting the real world versus this like artsy AI world. And I think that's been really successful, people leaning into the glitchiness. And even on a meme basis, like comedically, I've seen on TikTok and Reels things blow up because they're leaning into that. Like there's a classic, Will Smith eating spaghetti thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even more than that, like there's these funny ones where people must be using other models like Kling that are more prone to this, but they take like a natural looking thing, like someone walking and all of a sudden they're on a jet ski, in the middle of a
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like that really like dreamlike, super glitches that occur. They look kind of real from the video, but the scenery is so absurd. It's like surrealism. That can be funny. And I think either leaning into the glitchiness, like the Coca-Cola example, or using AI tools to like add B-roll, but have the touch up of like maybe it's you and I, and there's something in between that's glitchy. Very cool to do either way, but I would, like you said, avoid the uncanny valley of trying to pass off like a weekly AI generated avatar as totally human. Like that's not, it doesn't fool anyone and it doesn't really work that well. But if you lean into it, that's great. It works great.
So kind of a curveball here. We are power users of like human video avatars. The
Mhm.
preferred tool for us is HeyGen. We got a great relationship with them, and we use them daily in creating content, creating advertising, and that sort of thing. Is it, how far are we away? And one of the things they do really well is if you are a good subject when you're recording your training data, it's hard to tell that it's, I
No,
mean, if you're doing, if you,
exactly. That's a great example of like those are getting really good. I'd say like generating an AI character from scratch outside of like we have also added video that you can have a character where you can upload a video to direct the character's movements. That like things like HeyGen, you can get pretty realistic when you have the video input or training, etc. But yeah, if you're generating a totally new character, it's kind of hard. But yeah, they've gotten really good. I've seen lots of avatars that get to be they're very realistic, and that's another example of a field that's gotten better and better, just
sure.
like quarter over quarter.
Yeah. So where I was going to go with this is that if I've got those fine-tuned avatars that I would like to use, but maybe put me in situations in creative, is there the ability to merge that output from HeyGen as input in something like LTX?
Yeah, you first off, people have approached that problem in two ways. I've definitely heard that a bunch of times. A lot of people create a project in LTX Studio and then export the working files to combine it with other assets. That's one.
Got it.
And you can also import, like a lot of people have tools like Midjourney as part of their creative process, and they can import those images as starting keyframes and then animate them in
Got
Lightricks
it.
Studio. But specifically importing videos, that's definitely something that we've seen as a part of people's workflows that we're looking into. And in terms of a roadmap, we've been cranking out a lot of stuff to where whenever we see like something like that, which it's very interesting to us to tackle near term. But yeah, I would say you can imagine that that'll be a part of products and available soon. But for now,
Sure.
most people are exporting the working files into some other editor or just starting with an AI generated image and using that to animate. But I think they'll all will start to play well together because there's all these things you'd want to tap in the world. Like for everything we're doing, there's really interesting things happening in, video, sound, etc., that you can imagine integrating as a stack in the future. And I
Yeah.
think you mentioned that like you are probably one of the foremost experts in all the tools that are out there. I kind of specialize in our world, but I'm sure you
Yes.
string a lot of these together naturally as well. And often early users are there's kind of a clunky process of importing, exporting, but the more mature the tools get, the more it just gets
Yeah.
easy to kind of string them together.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't mind being early users of tools. We know that
Hmm.
just over and over again, we've seen that because I hear people, oh, I tried it, it doesn't work. Well,
Hmm.
when's the last time you tried it? Because I'm getting incredible output. Oh, I tried it a few months ago. It's a lifetime in this space. And speaking of that tempo, like, are you guys, like, is there this ever present kind of anxiety about keeping up or staying ahead? Because things in this space move so fast and
Yes.
okay, like how do you guys address that in turn? First off, how do you calibrate that? How do you measure, are we ahead? Are we running with the pack or are we falling behind a quote unquote competitor?
Yeah. I mean, great question. It first off, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I'm sure creators and people in the space have this kind of low grade anxiety around the tools constantly changing and having to learn all these workflows. It's the same way for people making the tools. One
Sure.
thing I'd say is we have one of the most interesting, internal Slack channels sharing
Yeah.
novel research papers and things. And so there's many cases where we go from, I see the engineering team and research team go from seeing a research paper to testing in production, or sorry, testing it quite quickly. And then sometimes, we say, okay, this is better than we have in production. We want to, be using this resource instead. But there's since we have people working on research internally, they're really plugged into what's the latest in terms of what's possible with these tools. And so we're just constantly trying new things. There is a bit of this problem, like you said, where we might be close to releasing something, and then we just judge that, hey, we want to push things further, and so we might adopt a brand new technology to like kind of leapfrog what's out there. So it's a constant kind of battle between what we can put out in production, what's around the corner, and if we think this new technology will give us a leg up or give our users, better options in market. So we're just constantly looking around at that. But I'm not on the research team, but I'm definitely a beneficiary of just reading the interesting things that they're posting in that channel. So it's fun to see from the outside looking in.
So, what are you paying attention to in the marketplace when it comes to the tools and technology?
I think from the product team. So I'll answer that in two ways. So we use we use AI everywhere across Lightrix. In all of our products, from on Facetune, you can do a one tap edit to it's one of our most popular parts of the app now, where it can simplify a workflow that you might have to like take a photo of yours and get it the way you want it to look when you want to express yourself online. And so there's these one tap edits on Facetune. There's video and photo effects in Photo and Video Leap. And even in Popular Pays, our creator influencer marketing platform, we released this amazing brand safety tool that can take a process that required hours of manual vetting for our brands and make it just require minutes of the AI looking through a feed instead to analyze things. So we're using it all over. I think each product team is looking at what's possible in their field. So there's a heavy focus because it's used across our apps. There's a heavy focus on what's possible in video models, like foundational video models. We don't do as much in sound. We still care about it for certain things, but like you said, we're not like Suno working on music and stuff. But we want to integrate that for our
Sure.
users where it makes sense. But we pay heavy attention to photo and video. On the Popular Pay side, we've integrated it everywhere from having marketers use AI to make briefs really quickly. Like on average, the self-service clients on Popular Pays writing a brief would take like the average time it'd be in draft was like days. And after giving them this kind of ChatGPT like way they can put a blurb and it'll auto create a brief, it turned it into a process that was minutes. And so we also had, I think it's been a while, but we had like a huge increase in the amount of briefs being shipped as well, just because it lowered the barrier to getting it done. But that was a project we did a while ago. But we're constantly lookout of like what will be helpful for our marketers there. But instead of like video and editing tools, we were focused on how can we help brands and creators collaborate better. So it's really workflow improvements. But funny enough, in kind of like a great irony, so many people are worried about AI in terms of brand safety. Like,
Yeah.
oh, will I be able to use this? Will my legal team give me the okay? And that's an interesting topic we can chat about. But it's funny that like the saving grace for brand safety might be AI itself, because a lot of people have struggled with reviewing, like staying on top of content at a mass scale in the age of social media. And now
Tough.
we built tools that can look through just hours and hours of footage from now to years back, and it can live monitor people in the future, and it can look at not just the captions, but like audio in the video content itself. And so from my use of it, it's so much more effective than a human, that I wouldn't even allow human vetting. I would only allow AI vetting for this kind of stuff, because it can catch like a small text caption in a video from a year ago, or this piece of an audio blurb. It's just superhuman. And so it's funny, like we'll pay attention to different things based on what product it is, but in general, like super focused on video technology for our apps and photos, but also like workflow improvements such as the brand safety tool.
So right away, like political season, you mentioned it was election day. One of the things that would be a downfall is if somebody, the picture from when they were in college and they were doing something stupid showed up, right?
Hmm.
Is this with, and it's the product you were just talking about. First off, would that be categorized as almost like social listening?
It is in a way. It's even smarter than that though, because like social listening historically has just been like text, and most people don't really realize how powerful it's become. Where it's not only that, but it's cheap enough to where it's doable. Like previously, crunching just endless hours of video would be too expensive,
Impossible. Yeah.
and now you can index it at a really reasonable cost, and you can also live track it because it's so fast. But yeah, the like just like you said, now we're probably going to be past that era soon, because any creator could use this tool, and it's not only like of course you can find a picture of like a gun or something, or like alcohol, but it's so clever that an example is like it knows culture. So for example, it knows that AF means as F. It knows like
Yeah.
abbreviations. It knows context, It knows things that might be indecent versus not. Like it knows the difference between a statue that, a statue in the Louvre that might be, a topless marble statue versus like a human by the beach. Like it knows context in a way that's superhuman. And so it has found things that I find to be um, almost like eerily good at recognizing. First of all, it flags everything by default, and over time, like you could probably say, like, "Oh, I
Train it.
only care about these things." Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like you could say, "I don't care." Like I'm an alcohol brand, I don't care about alcohol flags
sure.
or whatever. Um, but it can capture nuance in language and audio, et cetera. So it's really impressive in that sense. But yeah, I think that we've had a lot of people have past posts come to haunt them. And
Sure.
now with this tool, any creator would be able to look at their own account and curate it. And that's really good for them to have because we all post so much that and all brands should have that ability, but we should be able to do that to ourselves too because it's our feed and
Great
it's
point.
gotten too expansive for us to monitor our own content. Like who knows what we've been like. I've been in the social media field for 10 years, and we a lot of people are growing up with this, and so it's something that creators should have as utility, and brands should have as utility, both so they can like express themselves the way they want to express, and partner with people that resemble their values.
This is interesting because being a business person, the first thing I think about is if I was going to make an executive hire for a high profile company, I would want to run this and see like, is there anything that's going to pop up before we make that hire?
It's
Right.
so funny you say that. I can't like say names and things, but there's like a sports team that was looking at using this for vetting people because in the age of college athletes being able to use their social media feeds and just athletes in general making as much money from sponsorships as their salary. You can imagine heavy vetting, of course, on superstars just naturally because of public opinion, but there's a long tail of athletes in every industry that no one's really vetting until they become really famous. And this tool can, make it happen so quickly. So it can be a utility for all types of things. You can also imagine one thing we're doing is talking with like really high powered, like global, Fortune 100 brands who might want like kind of more custom things. Cause you can imagine, for example, certain brands might be interested, like if I make tools, I might be interested in not just like typical things like swearing and alcohol, but is this work site safe? Maybe if I'm a food company, I don't want to show overeating. It knows context to the point where
Wow.
it's more than just we offer to everyone by default with these traditional flags, like anything that could be remotely brand safe or not, from politics to et cetera. It'll flag everything, and then you can decide what you care about. But you can imagine really heavy power users over time, kind of focusing this on things they care about that might be unique to their industry.
So, and I know that you're preparing for a presentation. Is that what you're doing out there?
Yeah, yeah. So we're doing a few ones. There's been I'd say a huge growth in like the kind of AI summit landscape
Yeah.
of like people wanting to learn about this. So like your podcast is an example for podcasts, but lots of meetups which are really fun. And we have been having a great time just highlighting LTX Studio to the world. So tomorrow we're doing both kind of a larger presentation as well as kind of a enthusiast meetup for demos in person. So that's gonna be really fun. But yeah, we also have a great series of events in the States. Like in a few weeks, we'll have one in New York. So we're going to be doing regular community meetups and webinars, things like that. But if anyone's interested, follow our handle LTX Studio on Twitter, and we post about community things. For example, recently we ran a really cool event where we let people pitch us their idea, and we gave them a huge budget for production if their idea won. So we gave them like a massive budget for actually bringing their idea to life if
Very
they made
cool.
us the best pitch. So stuff like that, it's available on our Twitter handle, LTX Studio. And it's a really fun way just to track like the community comings and goings. And there's also a great Discord channel where just enthusiasts are talking about it, sharing results, things like that. But yeah, that's for LTX Studio. And for popular pays, brands and creators can find us to like do sponsored work or to hire people for that work. But it's been a really exciting place to be in general because this has really transformed how we work personally
Sure.
and transformed our products. So it's been a really rewarding time to work on them here.
Anything planned for Austin?
We just did a meetup for Popular Pays in Texas not too long ago. I think it was in Dallas though. But we'll be at South by. So I guess
Okay.
if nothing else, we'll see you then.
But yeah, if you're in
it,
town, I'll get you some barbecue. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. I haven't been in a few years, but I had such a good time at South by last time I went, and but I need to go in the off season, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
coming to Chicago just for Lollapalooza. It's a little different than if you're there
Yeah.
on the off week.
Now we've got a great generative AI scene here. A lot of founders, a lot of builders, and I know that you've got engagements pending. But before we wrap up, I just wanted to get your take on who do you think is doing a good job in the space right now, regardless of what the modality is. Who's impressing you with how they're kind of leading in their category?
That's such a hard question. I mean, it'd be almost cliche to say OpenAI, but I have been such a fan. I've tried everything, but I just keep coming back to it. Like, I've used Claude for things and liked it a lot, but I
Yeah.
keep coming back to it for everything. Like, I use ChatGPT more often than Google now. Like 80% of my personal
Yeah.
searches are through ChatGPT, both for like personal questions, workflow things, like but also even random things. Like I was traveling and I saw, the airport book stand, took a picture of the books and said, can you rank these by, Goodreads
Nice.
rating and like
Yeah.
tell me which ones I use it
Yeah.
like so much that I have to say that one. But there's a handful of really fun startups that I see all the time. And I think there's in each field, like we talked about Suno or Udio, like in each field, there's some really great standout companies in each like specialty. So hard to pick one outside of the gigantic ones, but we've integrated and played with a lot of them.
Nice. Well, Corbett, I really enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to meeting you in person when you make it down to Austin.
Absolutely.
Enjoy your time over there and safe travels, and anything that we can do to support what you guys are doing. No kidding. As soon as I hit stop on this, I'm going to see if I can make that video I've always wanted to make
Right on.
using LTX. So this has been a wonderful conversation, buddy.
Glad we got one more user. And if you want, you just you can message me if you want to help building something. But if anyone's listening, tag me on Twitter, and I'm glad to help as well. But yeah, it's been really fun. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think, and just like stay tuned to it because we're releasing stuff all the time, and we got some new things planned coming out in the next few weeks.
I'm excited to see that stuff happening. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to Using AI at Work. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how to use AI at work. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Chief AI Officer, for empowering businesses with AI education and training. Visit their website for a free AI readiness assessment and AI strategy guide to help you get started using AI at work. That's www.chiefaiofficer.com. Special thanks to our producer, Evan DeSaulnier, for making this episode possible. Follow us on Twitter at the handle Using AI at Work, and visit www.usingaiatwork.com for free resources to help you harness AI in your role.